We all have a point of view, don't we? And we want to influence people to take on our point of view. Well, a long time ago, when the Roman Empire was at its height, Athens and the Greeks were naughty boys, and they did things that upset the Romans. I think they invaded somewhere. Anyway, the Romans decided that Athens would have to pay a really hefty sum in a fine. In fact, it was so much money, silver I believe, that they would never have ever been able to pay it. It was just way too much. So what the Greeks did is that they sent 3 of their very best philosophers to Rome to argue their case. One of these guys was called Carneades. Interesting character. He stood in front of a crowd of Romans who were interested in learning about this new thing called philosophy that was coming out of Athens at the time. And he argued with them that the Roman justice, their approach to life, was exactly the right thing to do. He put an argument that was so strong, he had the crowds cheering him. They couldn't believe how well he spoke and how well he argued the case for Roman justice. They loved him. And they all came back the next day because they wanted to hear what else he'd got to say. Well, Carneades stood in front of them, and just as eloquently as he had done the day before, with just as much passion and just as much influence, he argued totally the opposite. He argued that Roman justice was the worst thing, and that it was unnecessary, and that people didn't need it. And in fact, the best way to run a state was without that kind of centrally enforced justice. And as they listened to him, he was just as believable, just as persuasive, just as influential as he had been the day before. Now, why do I tell you the story? Well, because there isn't just one side of any argument. There are different ways of thinking about it, and there are different ways of influencing people. Now, in my new book, the subtitle of which is What Would Aristotle Ask?, is all about stepping into the shoes of people like Carneades, some philosophers that you no doubt will have heard of, and some maybe that you won't, that go all the way from the very first ancient Greek philosopher that we know about, all the way up to Sir Francis Bacon, so from a few thousand years ago to a few hundred. And what I've done is I've tried to understand how each of these people think, and then to step inside their shoes and to ask questions, coaching questions, as if I were them. The result is a whole list of new questions with new contexts, with thinking that is very specific to a philosophical idea behind them that I hope will be useful to you. So, if you want to know more about this upcoming book, please register below. Send me an email, ask me about it, tell me what it is that you want to see in there, because the book's going to be published later on this year. And I'll make sure that you get an advance copy, or at least the opportunity to buy one. All right, my name's Martin Goodyear. The book will be subtitled, at least, What Would Aristotle Ask? And it's all about 40 philosophers and what they might say if they were coaches. I look forward to speaking to you, perhaps in person, if not by email. Okay, take care for now.